how do you vet a property, or how do you make the decision to move forward with an investment? And what that's going to boil down to, and if that individual is watching, if you could clarify that a little bit, what it is exactly you're asking. But if you're asking, how do I make a decision to make this investment, and how do I make a decision to move forward with this deal? So it's all about, number one, your parameters. So first and foremost, any deal boils down to what are your return requirements and what are those of your investors. So if you're raising investor capital, you're going to have to meet that return. And if you have your own return requirements, it's going to have to meet those thresholds. So you need to look at the economics of the deal. You need to look at the potential of the deal. Can you add value? How are you going to be able to add value? Assuming this is an acquisition of an existing cash flowing property. If it's a real estate development deal, then there's a whole set of other considerations that go into that in terms of, is this the right fit for the market on that property? Just because there's a property to be developed doesn't mean that anything works on that property. It needs to be appropriate for the market to meet the demand that's in the market. And remember, it's all about solving problems. It's all about finding a demand, finding a niche, and filling that. So you don't want to go build it and then they will come. You want to find out what's missing, what's needed, and then put that in place. And if it's an existing property, what's the highest and best use of that property? How can you add value to that property? How can you maximize it and make it better? Then you have your financing considerations you need to take a look at. Then you have your global macroeconomic elements that you need to look at in terms of vetting deals and making those investment decisions. So there's a number of different things that go along with that. And at the end of the day, if you have a list of criteria, you have your rules of investing that you follow in terms of, it needs to be this kind of cap rate, it needs to be this size deal, it needs to be this kind of market, it needs to be in this kind of location with these types of tenants, with this kind of a spread delta between income and expenses after debt service, and it meets that criteria, then you pull the trigger. Yeah, so that's good. That's specific. So that's going to be specific to your personal situation, and there's a lot of factors and considerations there in terms of how you operate, what your strategy is, things like that. If you're a developer, you're going to structure yourself one way. If you're a buy and hold, you're going to structure yourself another way. If you're doing syndication, then the property is going to be held in an LLC at the property level, meaning whatever market that property's in, you need to file an LLC in that state to hold title to the property. That's how the lenders want to see that. So then you're going to have an operating entity, and depending on whether or not you have other partners, then you're either going to be a partnership or an LLC. You could be a C Corp. That may be the best tax strategy for you, depending on where you are in your organization. So that's really up to the individual. And what you want to do is you want to make sure you have an accountant who's very sophisticated with real estate and how to maximize the tax code from a real estate standpoint. And you need a tax attorney. So tax attorneys are very different than accountants. Accountants are dollars and cents, balance sheets, income statements, and tax returns. Tax attorneys are creative. They understand the tax code and the nuances of it, and they know where the gray area is and where you can do things that an accountant may or may not be aware of. So you need a very sophisticated tax attorney at higher levels, as well as an accountant, to make sure that you're maximizing your structures, your entities, your partnerships, and the tax code itself as it changes with the administration that we're in right now.